Call the public hearing to order. First on the agenda will be the street maintenance fund. If anybody in the public has any comments, pro or con, for the street maintenance, feel free to come on up to the head of the table and speak. And we'll wait probably like 10 minutes, and after that we'll call. Come on.
Okay, I'm Jacqueline Urkel, I live at 433 South Argenta Street, taxpayer here in Dillon. I want to know exactly, what is this 25-cent increase on? I mean, you're going to assess us another 25 cents on our taxes per foot
Yes.
for the amount around our property,
Well, just the linear frontage.
or just, well, I live on a corner.
Still just the front.
Okay,
Frontage.
so that means now that the taxes for the linear front on my property in front will be $1.85 a foot.
Yes.
That's right, okay. Now
If it
what-
passes today.
Yeah, and now what are you going to do with this other 25 cents?
Well, the plan is we're gonna do some snow removal, plus a lot of repairing on the streets, like some chip sealing, filling potholes and that. The biggest problem that we had is it was signed up for a bond that Glendale, Walnut, Vigilante, trying to make sure I get the names right.
Okay,
That was like $188,000 or $189,000. So that's one of the reasons we had to increase it some. Otherwise, we wouldn't have any money to do any street repair now. Because we were originally raising about $240,000 at $1.60. But $189 of that went to a bond payment.
okay, and
And so
that,
that left $50,000 to try to do streets. That's
that's
we couldn't-
not enough money.
right, but we was
Okay.
able to do it with that little extra. And I mean, we can't get rid of the bond, but that little extra, that 25 cents extra, allows us to do the streets, or do not all of the streets, but try to get them in repair.
Okay, well now, is this 25 cents, now that's going to retire this debt that we owe? I'm assuming this is a debt we owe, this 188,000. Is that going to retire that debt?
Not this year. The debt was 1.8 million, and it was taken for 10 years. Or you have to retire in 10 years, and this is year two, I think.
Well then, does
So
that
there's
mean
8 more years to go.
that next year there'll be another 25 cents, and then the year after that,
Well, I'm
25
hoping
cents?
this is it. It's not gonna keep adding, but it's gonna stay probably the same.
It's going to stay 25 cents, I mean, you're hoping that it will stay 25 cents for the duration of this bond, until it is paid off.
That's
if
the
it-
plan. That's the hope in the plan.
Okay, and it's, I mean, I'm not saying,
It-
you penciled this out? Have you
it-
penciled this
Mr.
out?
Proctor wanted to say.
Okay,
Oh, yeah, I do want to just make a comment. I mean, there, over the next 8 years, there could be other street projects that we need to get done. So, I mean, the 25 cents in future years, we might have another amount added on.
okay. So that means then the debt, I mean, we would continue to pay the 188,000, whatever it is, but our taxes would go up on street maintenance, strictly for street maintenance. And
Yes,
to pay
okay.
off
Yes.
this 1.8 million, which
Yes.
occurred because of the
Well,
work that was done on Vigilante
well, mainly
and
about $1 million
Glendale.
went into Glendale Street. About round numbers.
Okay,
About $1 million of that went into Glendale Street, maybe a little bit more.
I just, in thinking about this today and deciding to come down here, what happens if you would default and not pay that 188,000? Does anybody know what would happen?
Well, maybe my treasurer can.
What happens if you default on a loan like that, do you know?
If city defaults or if you
No.
refuse to pay your taxes?
No, I'm not talking about taxpayers, I'm talking about the city of Dillon defaults on paying that $188,000 bill they owe toward this.
My understanding is that's a general obligation bond of the city, and we could be, you know, and we could be forced to pay that out of other taxable monies by the courts, and that would mean less money for police, fire, whatever else is funded out of the general fund.
So you could be forced to pay it.
Well, we'll be forced to pay it.
Yeah.
You
It
would
would
have-
mainly, since it's a general obligation bond, that means it's taken off or with the taxes. And so they can use, to pay that bond, they can use your tax money, which is the general fund, health insurance, retirement,
Yeah, okay,
those things, the fire, they can't really touch the fire, but
yeah.
so that money we'd have to set aside, like right
First.
now, it's
You would have to
200,
set that aside.
it's like 270,000 right now is the general fund for the taxes.
Yeah,
So we'd have to use 189,000 of that to pay the bond, which would leave, I would have to then lay a lot of people off. Or we would have to go to court, and the court would then have to order taxes to be raised
yeah.
there,
Um,
which I don't want to do any of them, I'm
No.
not even.
And I don't want us to do that, but when I think about that, I did a little banking business or in my early career for about 7 years. And I know that when you didn't make your payment, and there was foreclosure, of course, they went and took the property. And I thought today, well, if they can't go in and rip the streets up, I mean, and they would not do that. I'm
No.
quite positive that they wouldn't
Yeah.
do it. But I would imagine that you would never be able to get a loan again
It would be really hard.
to do.
You can
anything
still
like
get it,
that.
but you'd be paying out of your nose
Pretty
on
rough.
interest and a bunch of other things. Yeah, it would be really very costly to the city from then
I
on.
don't think we want to go there.
I don't think you do either, but I also, looking at this and being the devil's advocate here, you know, at times that probably wouldn't be too bad a deal. You know why? Because it would make us all very fiscal responsible. And we would have to live within our budget. And we wouldn't go off on these tangents of spending more money than we have. And while I do not want that to happen to the city of Dillon, I'm just looking at it as thinking as a retired person and how many retired people we have here in the city of Dillon. And really, we only have the hospital, Pfizer's, the college. They're not set in concrete. And I would just urge you to be very, very careful,
I would
you know,
agree with you.
about how you spend the taxpayers' money when it is retired people that are putting forth the money to run your schools and your streets and your retirement and hiring people. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments on street maintenance? I will just wait. If somebody feels like they want to comment, just come up, introduce yourself.
Fletcher. I can't stand the silence. I just want to say, ditto to what you said. And I think really what we're facing here is in the past, overspending and over borrowing, and things you say are right. I think the council is, I think they're working this year to try to get that under control. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Sir?
Fred Fletcher, 325 South Dakota. Is there any way, I've walked around and I've noticed sidewalk with shrubbery and stuff covering the sidewalks. One sidewalk down there, somebody's thrown a lot of dirt up right in the sidewalk in a brush. And you can't even walk down, so you've got to go out the road and around it. And I just wondered if there's any way to make people start taking interest in their own property to correct for pedestrian walking. Now, I don't know if there's any rule or anything, or rather you just knock on the door and say, hey, that's a mess, you know. So I just wondered if there's anything that was on the books about it.
Well, we've been trying to get a lot of this stuff cleaned up. On that, if they're doing like some work on the building or whatever, sometimes we kind of let them go for a few days because they're working and, you know, and overall would have them clean up and that, of course, to make sure you can get by.
This wasn't at a building site or any repair or anything like
This
this.
is just-
This was just down the sidewalk and
What
nothing
street is
there,
this?
you know. But bushes are hanging way over and you gotta go out in the
Where
road
was
around
that?
a lot of it, so.
Where was that?
Well, that was down on Atlantic and,
No.
I can't remember whether it was Morris or Reader.
Okay.
The house on the corner where that big van was without the steering wheel. Okay, it's that corner house, if you go west, beside their house and down there, dirt piled up in front of the sidewalk and brush coming out there over. That's just one place,
Okay,
but that's the worst I've seen.
okay, we'll check it out.
Okay.
Okay, if there isn't any other comments on street maintenance, I will close the public hearing. Going, closed. Now let's open up the public hearing on the in the budget in general for the fiscal year 2014. Now we'll open it for the fiscal year budget for the city of Dillon for 2014, 2015, and also for levying the tax, the assessments for the special districts, including lighting, street maintenance, sprinkling, and special improvement districts, 33, 34, 35, 36, and 37. And then the annual amount due for the general obligation bond for the 2009. That's the police retirement bond. It's open for anybody that wants to speak on it. And we'll leave that open probably for 10 minutes. I'll give 5 minutes to get ready for the meeting after that. Unless there's people talking, I'll let it keep going if there's other. this one's a sludge, and that's the backfill, right?
Equalization, basically.
Right. But they took everything down and just put a new liner on top, right?
No, no new liner, there's already a good liner.
Oh, and I sand there.
What we did was drop the level, and then we're gonna go in and cut the aerators off. We want to be able to aerate at a lower level. So we'll just take the chainsaw out and go. Come on. Electric chainsaw?
Electric boat, buzz around the ponds.
We got a good boat, we got rid of the Titanic.
New boat?
A couple of years ago. Any other questions? Yeah, it's called the facultative pond. You can talk to Bob about that. Facultative pond. And it used to, the birds that used to come in there, remember the birds that used to come in there? It'd just be totally covered with ducks and geese and swans.
I'm surprised that there's
Oh, really? Yeah. When those snow geese had come in, they just,
And then down below, facultative pond, there's a sea lot. In high school, kids used to go out there and get party, and the priest would come out there, and my own daughter went across that.
No comment.
Across that, too, the front 515, but they did that thing. And that's how they say it.
What'd you say, Dave? No comment.
You guys got there, big hole here.
Says on the landing, turning to see the Morris or
One item, black tail one,
there's
January day.
more on reader. I got a big pile of dirt on the sidewalk, and it's a weeds over here, it makes it really tough to walk. So maybe we're gonna take a little look at it. The landing, either Morris or reader.
These are all vegetable.
Yeah.
he said on the west side.
West side. The landing, they're on reader. It was a manual steering wheel. Well, it probably got moved. So, dirt on it.
Okay, yeah, I got it. Overhang.
Makes it really tough to walk down the sidewalk.
Go for a walk.
That's what I remember by statute, so. I think for the budget, you have all 8. That's what people do adopted. The one time I guess that was. Well, I may remember wrong, but that's good.
I think you just need a quorum.
Okay.
As long as the ones that are voting for it are here during the hearing, then we're okay. If anybody else comes in and votes on it, then we would have to get some minutes in that of the hearing, so they can be informed of what happened during the hearing. But all I believe it just takes a quorum, doesn't it? Most of the stuff is a quorum.
Yeah, I know most of the stuff at quorum, but I thought the budget was the one exception to that. But my memory being failing also. Well, I mean, it's up to seating members.
newcomers. This is a public hearing for the budget, so if anybody wants to get up and speak, pro or con, we're accepting any of them.
Oh, there's a binder that I need to check and see if it's still on the table over there. Just trying to keep it out and see if it's in that corner. That big sign on it says, "Do not remove from this table." It has to do with the zone, or with growth policy. It was lost once and then it was back, and then now apparently it's lost again. Ah, there it is.
Not lost, just stored under.
Okay. Then there when I went to look for it.
Yeah, like the book.
Because a question came up last night that I'll have to pull that out for.
Yeah.
No, I was right here last night.
We're neighbors actually. 336 South Drive.
Yeah, we found that too.
We've been trying to figure out what to do with that.
Yeah.
This is the first time in probably 15 years that we haven't received a traffic complaint from him. So we're going to continue that. It's on the corner of Morris and
Last call for anybody
actually wanted was a radar
that wants
sign.
to speak.
That wasn't
Yeah,
available.
he
Public
said he-
hearing.
But he didn't bring popcorn.
Used what we got stuck with.
Going,
None.
going
Thanks, Dave.
for the last call for speakers. Okay, I'm closing the hearing.